Owl hoots at midnight on a church bell. What it's guarding will leave you speechless. The church stood tall against the shadowed skyline, its spire piercing the velvety darkness of midnight. The bell atop the ancient structure, silent for decades, now bore a peculiar guardian, a great horned owl. Its eyes, golden and unblinking, scanned the quiet graveyard below. Every night, as the clock struck 12, it let out a haunting hoot that echoed across the town of Silver Pines. No one dared approach the churchyard after dark. Whispers of the owl's purpose, ranging from protecting a buried treasure to guarding against a curse, circulated in hushed tones. For Father Gregor, the town's priest, the owl's presence had turned his sanctuary into a place of fear. Each midnight hoot seemed to reverberate through his soul, as if accusing him of a sin he could not escape. Tonight, however, everything would change. Father Gregor, clutching a flickering lantern, approached the church steps. His trembling hands revealed more than just fear of the night. He was hiding something. Behind him trailed Ella, a young journalist from the city, whose arrival in Silver Pines had stirred curiosity among the locals. Ella was chasing a story about the town's eerie folklore, but she had no idea the truth was far darker than she could imagine. As the clock struck 12, the owl hooted once again, its cry piercing the silence like a blade. Father Gregor froze, his face pale. Ella, standing a few steps behind, whispered, "Father, what is it guarding?" Gregor turned to her, his voice barely audible. Some secrets should stay buried. But before either could react, the bell above began to toll, its deep chime shaking the ground beneath their feet. The owl let out a screech, launching into the air and circling ominously. Ella gasped, her camera falling to her side. "What's happening?" Father Gregor's eyes locked on the bell tower. Something, or someone, is trying to escape. The next morning, the townsfolk gathered near the church, their faces etched with unease. The bell's sudden tolling had awakened memories of an event long forgotten, or deliberately erased, from the town's collective memory. Ella, armed with determination and her camera, delved into the church archives. Dusty tomes and yellowed pages hinted at a dark chapter in Silver Pines history. There were mentions of a trial, a condemned soul, and an artifact sealed beneath the church, its exact nature shrouded in cryptic language. Meanwhile, Father Gregor avoided her questions, retreating into prayer and silence. It wasn't long before Ella noticed the owl's peculiar behavior. It seemed to follow her every move, its gaze unnervingly intelligent. One evening, as she reviewed her notes in the graveyard, the owl swooped low, dropping an old key at her feet. Startled, she picked it up, its ornate design matching the carvings she had seen on the church's locked crypt. "What are you trying to tell me?" Ella murmured, staring into the owl's glowing eyes. She decided to confront Father Gregor. Storming into the rectory, she held the key aloft. "What's under the church, Father? What is the owl guarding?" Gregor's face crumpled with resignation. "A mistake," he whispered, "one that could doom us all if unleashed." Reluctantly, he recounted the story. Decades ago, a man accused of witchcraft had been executed on church grounds. Before his death, he cursed the town, vowing that his spirit would return to seek vengeance. To protect Silver Pines, the townsfolk had sealed his remains, and something far more sinister beneath the church, using an ancient ritual. The owl, Gregor explained, was no ordinary bird. It was a sentinel, bound to the curse. Ella's journalistic instincts clashed with her growing fear. If the story was true, why had the bell tolled, and what had changed to awaken the dormant curse? The next night, Ella and Gregor stood before the crypt, the key trembling in Ella's hand. The owl watched from its perch, its hoots growing louder and more insistent. "We shouldn't do this," Gregor pleaded. But Ella, driven by a mixture of curiosity and duty, inserted the key into the lock. The crypt door creaked open, revealing a narrow staircase descending into darkness. The air was thick, laced with the scent of decay and something else. Something metallic, like blood. Gregor hesitated at the threshold, but Ella pressed forward, her flashlight cutting through the gloom. At the bottom of the stairs lay a stone sarcophagus, its surface etched with symbols that seemed to writhe under the light. The owl, now inside the crypt, landed atop the sarcophagus and let out an ear-splitting screech. "What is it guarding?" Ella whispered, her voice trembling. Before Gregor could answer, the ground beneath them shuddered. The sarcophagus lid slid open with a deafening roar, revealing a skeletal figure clad in tattered robes. Its hollow eyes glowed with an unnatural light, and a guttural voice echoed through the crypt. "You dare disturb my rest?" Ella stumbled back, her flashlight flickering. Gregor clutched his rosary, reciting prayers, but the figure advanced, its skeletal hand outstretched. The owl swooped down, its talons glowing with an otherworldly light, striking the figure and halting its advance. The skeletal being let out a furious howl. "You cannot stop what has begun!" Suddenly, the crypt was flooded with light as the owl unleashed a burst of energy enveloping the skeletal figure. The ground trembled violently, and Ella shielded her eyes. When the light subsided, the sarcophagus was sealed once more, and the owl perched atop it, its feathers singed but intact. Gregor fell to his knees, tears streaming down his face. "It's over," he muttered. "For now." In the days that followed, the town returned to an uneasy calm. Ella, shaken but resolute, documented the events, though she left out certain details. She couldn't explain the owl's supernatural power, nor did she want to incite panic. Instead, her story focused on the courage of a small town confronting its haunted past. Father Gregor, though relieved, bore the weight of guilt for his role in the curse. He vowed to protect the church and its secrets, knowing the danger was not entirely gone. As for the owl, it remained at its post, its golden eyes ever watchful. Each midnight it hooted, a solemn reminder that the past could never truly be buried. In her closing words, Ella posed a question to her readers. What would you do if the past came back to haunt you? Would you face it or let it consume you? The camera panned to the church bell where the owl sat, silhouetted against the moon. Its gaze seemed to pierce the screen, as if challenging the viewer to uncover their own buried truths. What do you think the owl was guarding? Could you have faced the crypt like Ella did? Share your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell to uncover more stories like this one.